To me, this is not just another nation. It is not just one of the family of nations. This is a nation with a great mission to perform for the benefit of liberty-loving people everywhere.
That we shall be as a city upon a hill.
These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of his country.
You've come to fight as free men. Free men you are. What will you do without freedom?
Proclaim liberty throughout all the land.
In one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight.
You gotta fight for your right.
Can you dig
it? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Shine. Let me know if I'm gaining too much here, buddy. If I'm clipping, whatever I'm doing, whatever I need to do on the mic in. Looks all right over here. My name is Mr. Henry. David Shine Thompson over there. This is Real News in the Morning. Back again with another edition. Tuesday through Friday, this show is. We're going to try and figure out what happens on Mondays. Calm it down a little bit here, buddy. We're entering a new week, man. Yeah, projections are looking good. We're doing all right. How you doing on your end there, Shine? Yeah, I hit him too early with the stuff working on it. Hey, doing well, man. Doing well.
Quick doing all the transfer stuff. You know, how you doing this morning, buddy?
Doing all right, man. Oh, man. Quick rundown as to what the show is this morning. Obviously, we're looking at Governor Lee's extending his stay-at-home order through the beginning of May here. At least that's what we've been told. As we've also pulled some local leadership and their responses as well. You can check that in the show notes. Obviously, DOJ says to, quote, expect action on government regulation of church services. Now, this is obviously coming after a weekend of Easter services where we've heard multiple different states having multiple different kinds of problems with local law enforcement there.
Well, wait a minute, though. Happy Easter.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're just getting through what we're talking about. But then,
happy Easter, Grant. Did you and your family have did you have a good virtual Easter?
Yeah, man. We had a good virtual Easter. What about y'all?
Oh, super good, man. Called everybody and all that stuff. I mean, do you think this is something that we'll remember for a long time? The virtual resurrection?
I think so. I think we will,
man.
The
digital deity. Sorry, I got with enough puns, but but weird, right? That's something we should throw out. I would love to see in the comments, and I'm pulling them up right now, if there's anything, I don't know, unique. I mean, it was already a unique holiday yesterday. It was unique. So if you had a unique experience, I'd love to hear about it in the chat. How did you celebrate Easter? I don't know. I thought that'd be cool. But check out the chat. You can join us there on Facebook, YouTube, all those places. And just throw in there what you did on Easter. I'd love to hear about it.
And I'd also like to know, too, if anybody had any, like you just said, man, about the interesting ways they celebrated Easter or interesting church services they went to, or if someone of them did some of those drive-in services, you know what I'm saying? If it was just digital stuff they did, or if it was drive-in services, or goodness, man, even if you met in person. That's part of the stories we're bringing up today is if anybody was actually meeting in person. Also, Real News audience, greatest. Oh my goodness, I just got Shine. I just got an alert saying that tomorrow's tax day. Wrong. We've done that already. That's been extended. Greatest audience in the nation. Appreciation.
I'm still doing
segment.
Mine today, though.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm going to do it today.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm going to do it today just to get it done and to make sure I get that check. Yeah,
man. Oh, that's another thing we could talk about too. Anybody seen their checks roll through yet? Anybody seen their checks come in? Anybody still looking for that eye in the bank account? Are we getting it through mail? We getting it through direct deposit?
I'm always looking for that check. You know,
any chance I get, we're looking for that check. Hey, by the way, Shine and I started a little bit early this morning because we have to be out of here just a little bit earlier than normal. We got a packed day of work stuff going up for us. But we also have a packed show going on here as well. So let's start with greatest audience in the nation appreciation segment here. Let us know in the comments section or personally message myself, David Shine Thompson, or the Real News channel here. Let us know how you're doing, what you've been dealing with, how things are going. You have any prayer requests, prayer concerns? You have any just general concerns? You have any business concerns, money concerns? Let's see, man, food concerns, whatever. Let us know. Help this community build itself. Help this community help you and all this stuff as well. Reach out to your fellow man, fellow neighbor. Bring him through these times. If you got a big, a shout out, a praise, shout out of something that you got going on, somebody having good stuff going on in life, let us know. Also, I really like to plug this every single time. If you know of a business that's trying to innovate during this period, give us a heads up on that. We'd love to have them on this program. We'd love to spread their message around. If you have a business that's trying to stay alive during these uncertain economic times, let us know the way that they are trying to change their platform a little bit, and we'd love to help them do that with the community that we're building here. Let's see here, man. I think that's pretty much it. Norm says, what's up? Hello, Real News fam. What's up, Norm? How you doing? Zach's in there. John's in there. Daniel's in there as well. Am I missing anything here, Sean, before we just dive headlong into it?
I think you're good, man. We'll just as you're talking about the first couple stories, we'll throw out what we see in the comments.
Yeah, exactly. Let's dive headlong into it, though. Okay, so this is where we're starting with this morning. Let me pull up this video here. This is Governor Lee from yesterday. Obviously, now this coverage here is a little bit different between the tornadoes that happened in Chattanooga over the past 2 days there, and obviously Governor Lee extending his stay-at-home order. Now, coverage of the Sean, I don't think you can hear this, so it doesn't necessarily matter. There's an ad playing in the background, by the way. But Governor Lee obviously started by talking about some of the coverage.
Oh, you're good, bro. We can't hear your ad.
Yeah, I figured about some of the coverage with the tornadoes going on. I'm going to skip ahead to where he's talking about the, let's see here. Well, yeah, right. Where he's
while
talking
you're looking at it, I'll throw it in there. You know, the lead was the stay-at-home order has been extended through, the entire month of April through the beginning of May. And you know that by now this is based on data because, they know how many people are being hospitalized and things like that. And it's no longer a guessing game. It's what is happening and responding to that. I guess it's still a guessing game, but it's not where we were a month ago, where people were pretty much imagining all the worst-case scenarios and stuff like that. Yeah, anyway, exactly. I'll let you go ahead, Mr. Henry.
Yeah, we have Governor Lee up here right now. Let me go to him. We'll get a bit of commentary. This is Governor Lee's order essentially saying, hey, through the end of April, beginning of May, we're not exactly sure the exact timeline here. We're going to continue that executive stay-at-home order, and you'll probably see some local municipalities do similar versions of this. Here's Governor Lee.
Now to COVID. Today, Tennessee has 5,610 confirmed cases of COVID-19. We've lost 109 Tennesseans to COVID and 1,671 recovered cases. During this briefing, I'll outline the next steps for our Safer at Home order, as well as our efforts to plan for economic recovery. It's encouraging. Tennessee has now had more than 10 days of single-digit percentage case growth. Our aggressive testing of more than 76,195 tests has uncovered an average positivity rate between 6 and 8% consistently. Our hospitalization rate continues to be stable, with 579 hospitalizations to date. We're in close consultation with the Tennessee Medical Association and the Tennessee Hospital Association to ensure that the reality on the ground is just as encouraging as the trend lines that we're seeing.
All right, and that is a good setup where we need to jump into, where he actually talks about the justification for the extenuation of the stay-at-home order, because what he's essentially saying here is, look, we're doing a pretty good job so far. Frankly, we're doing a great job so far with the statistics that we were receiving in the modeling data, Sean, that we were receiving, I don't know, a month or two back from where we are now. It is substantially better than anyone ever thought that it possibly could have been. Right now, I think what he's ended up saying is, with that being said, we need to figure out this phase of reintroduction. We need to figure out this phase of how to get people back to work. But at the same time, we can't risk spreading this thing any further than we have been before.
I don't know, Mr. Henry. The thing that stuck out to me is that 579 hospitalizations in the state, dude, in the whole state.
Yeah.
I'm starting to wonder why we shut this whole thing down. Because I was out yesterday. I went out and did grocery shopping. Everybody wasn't doing pickup groceries. There were probably 300 people at Walmart yesterday.
Dude, right? Home Depot as well.
If this was super deadly, hospitalized most of the people, or even like a chunk of the people, even like 5 or 10%. I know I'm kind of being a little hyperbolic here, but 579 hospitalizations in the whole state of 7 million or whatever it is, and we shut down everything for this? I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm
No,
probably being over
dude,
the
this
top.
this is the exact same. I hear you, buddy. This is the exact same concern that County Mayor Glenn Jacobs, Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs, is having. Because I honestly didn't realize this until he put it out in his statement yesterday. I suppose it's worth reading a portion of that statement right now. He put this out in a statement yesterday, essentially saying that, like, look, we're actually losing hospital staff. We're actually having to send hospital staff to other states. Here's what he said. Governor Lee's statement, Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs basically said, I understand Governor Lee's decision to extend the stay-at-home order is done with the best interest of the whole state in mind. With 36 active cases in Knox County, our numbers are stabilizing. 36 active cases in Knox County, numbers are stabilizing. He continued, this pandemic is serious, and I certainly don't want to underestimate it. Physical distancing was not intended to eradicate COVID-19. Physical distancing wasn't intended to eradicate COVID-19, but rather to slow its spread and ensure we don't overwhelm our hospital system. Exactly what Shine is talking about now. Again, this is Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs' response. He goes on to say, we know our numbers can still go up and expect that they will. But with our low rate of hospitalizations and the discontinuation of elective surgeries, our hospitals are standing empty. One more time, buddy. With our numbers, they can still go up and we expect our will, but with our low rate of hospitalizations and the discontinuation of elective surgeries, our hospitals are standing empty. In fact, many of those serving on our healthcare systems are being laid off or dispatched to hotspot areas outside of the state. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, this is Mayor Glenn Jacobs. Now, he goes on to talk about the economy a little bit by saying, with all that in mind, I agree with the governor. Knox County and the state of Tennessee should not continue this model of economic shutdown much longer. It is not sustainable. We don't have to make a choice between a healthy economy and healthy people. There is a way to combat this virus without killing the economy. I look forward to helping create the plan that enables Knox County to do this. But, buddy, when he said, in fact, many of those people in our own healthcare system are first of all, some of them being laid off because our hospitals are standing empty, to people no longer having elective surgeries. And secondly, he's saying we're apparently even sending some of our hospital staff to out of state. Not to say that we shouldn't do that, but I think to the point of what Shine's talking, it's like, dude, how much have we overestimated this problem? And if we've overestimated so much that the original intention was not to overwhelm our systems, well, they're so underwhelmed at this point, like we don't even need the staff that we have. Other places might need the staff we have. And obviously the argument is not to, well, let's go get more. Let's go infect more of the population with this virus so that we can have this overwhelming capacity situation. Clearly not. But there always had to be this proper consideration. And this is not opinion. Hear me right now. This is not Mr. Henry's opinion. This is just pure matter-of-fact circumstance. If you don't agree with this, I'm not sure where your head is right now. What I'm about to say is there always needed to be a proper consideration of where to draw that line between destabilizing the economy for the sole purpose of not overwhelming the healthcare system. Do you get what I'm saying? And I think that's what Shine's talking a little bit about. I think that's what Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs is talking a little bit about. And I think that's a little bit the perspective that some people have lost during this particular time period is if you even bring up this side of the conversation, buddy, of how do we maintain the economy? All of a sudden you're somehow not looking after the physical concern or something, or you're somehow, I don't know, perpetuating this idea that you want more virus spread. It's nonsense. It's nonsensical.
What I'm saying is that it would have spread.
Sure.
If I'm saying people are social distancing, yes, that's what I mean. They definitely are. And thanks for liking the screen there, Janie Groberg. And like and share, everybody. Like and share. That really helps the video a lot, and we really appreciate y'all listening or watching. But it would have spread if people are social distancing. But there were a lot of people at Walmart yesterday when I went and picked up groceries. A lot of people, and it's airborne supposedly. And I feel like even though we're social distancing, based on how dangerous I thought the virus was, I thought there'd be more than 579 hospitalizations in the state of Tennessee.
Yeah. I
mean, for real. How is there not more than that? And if there's not, then what are we doing? What are we doing right now? And I only say that because, like, my life's been disrupted. I mean, like, I'm having a good time with you. I'm glad we started the show, but it's messed up my flow, man.
It's messed up my flow.
It's messed up my flow. And I think a lot of people probably know what I'm talking about. It's messed up my flow of my life and disrupted things and kind of put it on pause. And had to do weird overcompensations to deal with it and stuff like that. So I don't know.
Let's be for real too. I'm obviously not going to be the person that's going to discount any sort of statistical data that a person can receive, and or any of the math that would be behind that. Okay, so your average run-of-the-mill flu is nowhere near the death rate, at least is what we're seeing in Tennessee right now. Again, numbers being what they are, you can always have certain variables. You can twist these numbers to make you say whatever you want to. So let it be known right now, pure and simple, that Sean and I are certainly recognizing that I'm pretty sure the stats at least are holding somewhere between 1.8 and 1.6% death rate. I think that's what we're still looking at right now, at least as it pertains just to Tennessee. Just to Tennessee, I'm talking alone. Those are the numbers, right? Now, that is substantially higher than your normal average run-of-the-mill flu. Again, though, what I'm saying is the economic repercussions we could be facing of what's coming out right now may end up being something that no one has even started to talk about yet. And with all that being said, let me just give Governor Lee a chance to get the word from his mouth.
Real quick, before you start, Governor Lee, again, from the chat room, Norm Tina Vaughn, I'm with Shine. If this thing was so contagious, I would have it, along with hundreds of other people I've been around at Kroger and Home Depot. Like, that's totally true, because they said that it's airborne and, you're breathing. So if you went into a place like Kroger, you'd infect everybody there if you had it. Or if anybody had it, they would infect everybody. And then Cheney Groberg says, and Lowe's and Home Depot's parking lots are full. Going back to my point that even though we are social distancing, we're not, like, isolating ourselves. We just spend less time around people. So, like, it would be more widespread, and if this was a danger to everybody, people would be in danger right now. So, I'm just throwing that out there. Let's let Governor Lee speak.
Yeah, here's Governor Lee.
Efforts have saved countless lives across Tennessee, and for that, we are thankful. However, until a treatment's widely available, we have to remain vigilant to incorporate social distancing and good hygiene in our daily routines, or we have a very serious risk that this disease could come roaring back and erase all the progress that we have made to date. Until a vaccine or a therapy is widely available to Tennesseans, this virus will be a present reality for us to manage and consider whenever we're making decisions. However, it's clear that our economy cannot stay shut down for months on end. So we're left with a clear but complicated task. We have to reimagine how to conduct business in a society so that we can operate our economy safely and confidently while continuing to suppress the spread of COVID-19. We need Tennesseans to go back to work, but we also need everyone to recognize that physical distancing must continue for the foreseeable future. Unemployment claims have been 25 times their normal rate, with more than 250,000 initial claims in the last 3 weeks. In cooperation with guidance from the White House, we'll extend our stay-at-home order through April 30th and plan to begin reopening our economy in May. Until that time, our unified command team will continue to consult with experts, analyze all the available data, and monitor CDC recommendations for the remainder of this month.
And look, man, I don't think anybody right now is envying anyone in leadership positions at this point, right? From what Governor Lee just laid out there, this idea of we simply do not have an effective way medically to deal with this yet. We don't have herd immunity situations going on currently. We don't have a vaccine. We really don't have anything that's scientifically replicable, if you will, to be able to deal with some of these symptoms. Now, there's a bunch of information being thrown out there. Yes, I realize, my real news audience, you could throw me all kind of sources if you wanted to about this pill or that pill or this. So, there's some stuff that, they're trying around and testing.
Yeah, we don't have anything
right
that's reached the threshold of efficacy.
It's what I'm saying, right? There's no consensus.
You might end up hurting people by saying, everybody take this drug.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And look, shoot, man, something could work, something could not work. I have no idea. I have no training behind that. All I know is that there's not a consensus across the board yet that this is definitive the way to deal with this. Okay. And with that being said, it's exactly what Governor Lee's talking about. So how do you deal with that situation of it still potentially being out there, of opening up travel restrictions again, of possibly reintroducing it to society, and at the same time realizing, dude, if I don't do something pretty darn soon, the economic situation is possibly going to be worse than what the COVID situation ever could have presented me with, right? That is what I'm saying. That is an unenviable position. Nobody would want to be able to have to deal with that position right now. But somebody has to shine. Okay. Somebody has to, and somebody has to deal with it in a proper way here. And this is what I'm saying. When I say somebody, I'm also putting a little bit of the personal responsibility back on us again, because that's one of the ways that we started this whole program, buddy, was by saying, hey, man, there's a lot of personal responsibility that goes into all of this conversation. How many times did we come on here and say, we don't want to have to force Governor Lee's hand here? We don't have to want to force local government's hand. If we would just abide by, I don't know, not trying to abide by doing the social distancing thing voluntarily. If everyone sort of voluntarily made the proper decision, there wouldn't be this need for this overreaching arm of government, dude. And that's what gets us into such massive problems with some of the stories we're about to bring up here in a second about shutting down church services, bro. It's the whole conversation for me, and I keep falling back to this, but this whole conversation has become this convoluted thing of government overreach versus our inherent rights, right? And amidst all of that, the underlying nuance of what's going on with the virus, proper distancing, of anything else you should be talking about, not all of that gets just overwhelmed. It all gets overwhelmed. But these massive conversations, are we having, I don't know, some new authoritarian state that's going to be scanning our face technology? Another story I read about Bill Gates apparently being the one that's primarily pushing this tech now to have face scanning technology like China. Like, that's the stuff we're talking about. The religious services have now being shut down. Those have become conversations about a First Amendment right in the midst of a pandemic. We're not talking about the pandemic, bro. We're talking about something entirely different. And that's, I think, a little bit what I'm saying is like, it's very important during these times to recognize the nuances of what's happening there. These conversations are important to have. They absolutely are important to have. But you also have to be very, very careful and mindful all the time about those conversations, those liberty conversations, bleeding over into influencing a little bit too much with what your ideas of the medical situation going on, right? Because it's this weird thing that you constantly have to hold in flux. And it's also this weird thing now, buddy, where you're starting to see some of our local leadership having, say, differing opinions, if you will, than, say, our governor. Representative Martin Daniel out in y'all's way said it was time to, quote, restore our constitutional rights and to travel and to assembly. Right? Representative Jeremy Faison, he ended up saying he praised Texas Governor Greg Abbott, and the Republicans signaled his intentions to reopen the Lone Star State. Now, independently, Faison and Representative Zachary, both from the Knoxville area, or Representative Zachary rather from the Knoxville area, they asked their folks on Twitter these sort of like impromptu. There's not exactly a scientific survey, if you will, but whatever. 6,100 people voted in this particular thing about the question, saying, should we reopen?
That's not bad. That's a pretty good sample rate.
It's not a bad sample rate, right? Exactly. So they asked this question essentially of, should we reopen the economy? Sean, let me know if this is blurry on your end. If not, I'll read it. Either way, I'll read it. But he basically asked, should Tennessee open back up this month? This came out on April 10th. This is Representative Faison put this out to his folks. 21% said yes, wide open. 22% said absolutely not. 33% said yes, but very cautiously. And 23% said wait till mid-May. And I'm pretty much, dude, I think that's where everyone's at right now, is this yes, but cautiously. I think most people are in that situation where you've seen this meme going around.
Isn't that funny that it's almost the percentage breakdown of Republicans, Democrats, and independents for the nation? I know it would be a different percentage in Knox County, but that's still interesting. That's so interesting. I wonder if that breaks down by personality, like the people who are more brave, and then the people who don't like taking chances, and then the competent, cautious people. It's really interesting.
And let me say this one more time, too, Shine, as I'm pulling up this next survey that Zachary sent out as well. If and when we reintroduce ourselves back to the economy here, I want to say, Nick just said in Facebook here, the economy needs to open again. Nick said also, we aren't arresting anyone like the leftists. That's ridiculous. That's awesome.
John says, okay, so let me throw something out there, Mr. Henry. We're talking about civil liberties and whatever. My fiance had a group call with like some friends from the old days. That's what a lot of people are doing right now. And friends out in Seattle, another friend in Manhattan, and another friend in Paris. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so cool, interesting takes on what's going on in all of those different, well, not cool. They're actually really uncool things going on in all three of those cities. Here, I went to Walmart yesterday, no big deal. The girl in Seattle says if you go outside without a mask, they will send you home, and if you try to argue, they'll arrest you. If you even go outside
and take you where though? To prison?
I think that's when you're an authoritarian, you don't worry about where to put them. There's always somewhere to put them. This is America. There's buildings, but the same thing supposedly in Manhattan and France, where like you can't even go out without a mask, let alone like get to the whole idea of you need a piece of paper in your hand also. If you're going anywhere that's beyond a few blocks from your house, you need a piece of paper saying why you're going. You have to go on foot, right? Because most of these people who live in these cities don't have cars, right? So as soon as you get out of your house, there's probably a police officer on the corner somewhere just waiting for. So anyway, like I've never been more thankful to live in Tennessee. I've never been more thankful to be in a place where the plurality of people believe in civil liberties and freedom and things like that. I think it's super important, and I think that the decisions made will have reverberations over the course of time.
Dude, absolutely.
Where these places that decided to be more authoritarian, we'll see how that plays out. We'll see how that plays out. I feel like the places where people were able to be more free. Now a little bit of this is luck, because the virus doesn't seem to be as bad as we thought it was. I mean, I don't want to jinx it, but it just seems that way right now. But it seems like the places that have more freedom, I think it'll end up paying off dividends compared to these other places. I cannot believe the idea that if I left my house without a mask, I could be arrested or even harassed, even questioned. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that seems like a personal choice, especially considering the guidelines that have been issued from CDC, unless they've changed. I haven't looked at them in the past 48 hours. They talked about a mask being a personal choice, not a you need to do this. It was like if you want to do this in order they talked about the mask being more important for these people who are constantly around people who are infected with the virus, like healthcare professionals and emergency workers and things like that. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there that even though we have some things going on here that people don't like or disagree with, it's fun to see the debate be amongst basically liberty people who are willing to take risks, or liberty people who are being a little bit more conservative on the risk side. That's a lot better than somewhere like San Francisco, Seattle, New York, Paris, London. Ugh, talk about facial recognition technology. I mean, who knows what's actually going on in some of these places, and I hope people write books about it in the future, because I think it's disturbing that I don't care if there is a virus. I mean, at this point, I think I can say this, Grant, it's not too soon anymore. I mean, I don't care if the dang Black Plague rises up. There is no reason to do some of the things that we're doing. I think we kind of put up with it for like a month or so because we thought the world was coming to an end. But I think it's time to step up. And all I needed was a little inch. That 579 hospitalizations in the state of Tennessee. I don't know. For some reason, that tells me that we're not as much danger as we thought we were.
And again, man, this is what I keep harping on, buddy. It's all for me. The entirety of all this is rooted in an aspect of self-responsibility. And I know it's like, Mr. Henry, that's an old adage. You keep playing that out. Yes, dude, but it's more important now than I think it ever has been, possibly before. Because never before, at least in my lifetime, have we had to have this conversation of if I don't take enough responsibility for myself and my actions, somebody else is going to. If not somebody else, some other entity is going to. Nick said in Facebook a second ago here when the comment is that was the plan. I just believe the plan was to keep everything open and rolling and sort of let self-responsibility reign or something. That was the plan until cell phone movement skyrocketed. People we're tired of staying at home. Agreed, right? He says, I'm thankful to be in a state like Tennessee that still believes in honoring rights while trying to give a little more teeth to the stay at home. And that's exactly what I think it is, buddy. They had to give a little bit more teeth to stay-at-home orders here in Tennessee because we weren't doing it for ourselves, right? I think you're exactly right, man. There's a way to reintroduce stuff back into the economy. There's a way to reintroduce back normalcy back to society, but it's going to come with a weird sort of grain of self-responsibility salt like we've never seen before, right? There's this 4-phase reintroduction I was talking to my wife about before that we talked about in this show several weeks back, and it essentially says phase 1 is what we're in, we were just in, or what we're still in now, the mitigation phase. Phase 2 is going to be reintroduction of people back that are able to handle it better. Ones that have already had it before, maybe a sense of herd immunity, maybe those that are less susceptible to some of the symptoms if they do get it, right? As they get reintroduced, we're going to get more and more essential workers back into it. Phase 3 then has this whole thing of introducing more people back into society for the economy, but coupling it with mass amounts of sanitation. Now, here's the part that some people are not going to like. In phase 3 and on into phase 4, you then have a version of South Korea that we're talking about, okay? You have a version of South Korea where if you do start having symptoms, you let somebody know you have symptoms, and you identify the people that you've been around with that possibly could have been exposed to this thing as well, okay? If they've been exposed, you then do, here's where it gets wonky, buddy. You then do either a forced 14-day quarantine period, or employers try and work with you and do a voluntary 14-day quarantine period. Dude, all of this stuff for me has this underlying issue. And this is why I'm saying, y'all, it's really important to be able to parse properly when we're talking about liberty issues as opposed to the medical concerns behind this. It's sometimes these things go straight up against each other's heads. And again, I'm saying you need to have these conversations in conjunction with each other, but you also need to recognize when you're talking about one thing as opposed to the other, right? The medical conversation with people going to church is a weird thing for people to get their heads around. Anyways,
yeah, let's get to the church thing real quick, though. From the Facebook comments, Sherry says, give credit to the fact the numbers have been impacted because we did stay at home.
Yeah.
And Judy says, did you see that field hospital in Seattle didn't serve one patient? I didn't see that story, but I do know that I've heard the White House, I think it was Dr. Burke, say several times that it really started in the United States in Seattle, in Washington. And there probably needs to be a case study done on why Seattle didn't get as bad as New York. You know, because they obviously did a pretty decent job. But her point's well taken. They built a field hospital thinking because it was the first place. So we're seeing a lot of the federal response finish up in Washington. They thought it was going to be bad, and it wasn't that bad. And California wasn't that bad either. I don't know if it has to do with the warm weather or what. I don't know what it is, but that's a thing. So let's get to this church story, considering yesterday was Easter. Still looking for in the comments if you did anything unique yesterday, considering it was the digital day of remembrance.
Absolutely. And the church story that Sean's talking about, obviously, is what you heard over the weekend. I mean, I don't want to go into a lot of these stories right now, man, because it's primarily the federal response that I'm looking to get to here. But just a quick rundown of some of them is and the reason why, man,
just drop some headlines. Drop the headlines.
Here's some of the headlines we're talking about. Okay, this is coming from the New American, and this is again, all this stuff is tagged in the show notes here. But the New American obviously says covered the story of the police raid in the Mississippi church drive-in service. I'm pretty sure this is the one where. Let's see, they were going around issuing, $500 tickets. We also have reporting on the Washington Examiner of that same story as well. Baptist church members given $500 tickets for listening to church services in their car via radio in a parking lot. Dude, that stuff is just like, it's asinine. It's absurd, dude. It's absolutely, and this is why I'm saying, like, I don't even know if you have to get to the First Amendment conversation to just say, like, bro, police officers issuing people tickets while they're sitting in their cars, like, that defeats the whole purpose of it, man. Does it not? It defeats the entire purpose. The reason why I'm sitting in my car is specifically so I don't go get in contact with another human being. That's the reason for the car, okay? So there's a window between me so I'm not interacting with another human being. If you have to give me a ticket, bro, that means I have to roll down my window. I have to interact with another human being, police officer or otherwise, and I have to take this piece of paper that he just touched. Haven't for the last couple of weeks, we've been told don't exchange stuff when you go to sanitize every 15 seconds. I mean, I don't understand it. Another headline from the Gateway Pundit: Democrat Kentucky governor announces plan to record license plates of Easter churchgoers and force them to self-quarantine for 14 days. And we obviously have a police video showing up to stop a church service. I found that on Facebook as well. And as we're starting to see some of these stories unfold here, and if we can go into some of those details if you want to, these are the things that have been happening over the weekend. Now, on a rare few occasions, yes, let me say simply, yes, there were churches that were just in straight defiance of some of these stay-at-home laws. So they were in straight defiance of some of these congregating laws, if you will, of anything more than 10 people or anything more than just a few people in some of these states. Okay, they basically just flaunted that and said, no, forget it. We're going to have a 5 a.m. church service and people are going to show up in person. Now, obviously, I'm not advocating for any sense of police, intervention at that point. I'm just saying that to me is a distinctly different thing than people abiding by, again, voluntarily abiding by the right thing to do and showing up in their cars in a parking lot, dude. We just talked a second ago about how people are not just showing up in cars in parking lots at Walmart and Home Depot. They're going into stores and streets shopping all over the place, bro. And I know that's the analogy that everybody's drawing is why are liquor stores and Planned Parenthood and Home Depot still open while church services can't go sit in their cars? I get it. That's surface level analysis. What we're starting to see, though, and this is what I want to direct people's attentions to, though, police enforcement, law enforcement, unfortunately, are not necessarily the best interpreters of law from time to time. Okay, they're not the full breadth of knowledge of understanding as to what the law is not necessarily placed. That burden is not placed on the head of law enforcement. It's placed on the head on the law of those people that are doing the legal interpretations. And we started to see some legal interpretations already come out in reaction to some of these church services being shut down. We obviously have a statement from Attorney General Cameron that's coming out of Kentucky regarding the prohibition on drive-in church services. Here was his response, saying, quote, "We are aware that some Kentucky jurisdictions are discussing a prohibition of drive-in church services for the upcoming Easter holiday. As long as religious groups and worshipers are complying," hear this, y'all, because this is Mr. Henry's opinion, voluntary consent. That's what it's what the foundation of civilized society is built on. It's also what the legal interpretation is built on. He says, as long as religious groups and worshipers are complying with current Center for Disease Control, CDC, recommendations for social distancing to slow the spread of COVID-19, we see no problem with these drive-in services occurring. That is the Attorney General of the state of Kentucky in alleged defiance of the governor of Kentucky. The guy that's interpreting the law says you're flat wrong, okay? We said the guidelines were here from the CDC. They are clearly complying with the guidelines of the CDC. If you guys are solely ruling out religious services, you might be running foul of some constitutional problems. He goes on to say, religious organizations should not be treated any differently than other entities that are simultaneously conducting drive-through operations. I don't know, restaurants, liquor stores, you fill in the blank. Continuing, while also abiding by social distancing policies. As long as Kentuckians are permitted to drive through liquor stores, this is the Attorney General sign of Kentucky. As long as Kentuckians are permitted to drive through liquor stores, restaurants, and other businesses during the COVID-19 pandemic, the law requires that they must be allowed to participate in drive-in church services as well, consistent with existing policies to stop the spread of COVID-19. Finalizing all this by saying he goes on and says, we must all continue to work together and do our part to fight back against COVID-19. However, individuals who wish to celebrate religious holidays using a format that follows social distancing policies and the CDC guidelines should not be unnecessarily banned from doing so. Now, I'm not sure a better way to break that down, dude. I'm really not. I don't know.
The only way I can say it is this. Likes in the chat for the Kentucky Attorney General. Likes in the chat. Hit like in the chat for the Kentucky Attorney General. That's some logic right there. I like it. And you said it's surface level analysis to say that we are allowed to assemble at Home Depot or Walmart or liquor stores or things like that. Why wouldn't people be able to assemble another way? I don't like the idea that some people are putting kind of like churches in the same category as bars. Like if they can't do bars, then you can't do church. That's a better comparison though than liquor stores and other places like that. But I'm with the Attorney General. If there are rules, there can't be a rule that we can't assemble. There must be. It's better to have a rule that says if you are, then do this. Because I don't know. I mean, the only thing more protected in the United States than religious speech is political speech, and part of speech is freedom to assemble, right? Is freedom to get together and in like-minded purpose and do something. But religious speech is highly valued in this country, always has been, and they're talking about doing elections. And if they're thinking about doing elections and thinking that's so important, it's more important than safety, then why couldn't churches be more important than safety? And the other thing is, like, people who go to church, like, they know it's not like at this point, it's not like people don't know the risks to their own bodies. You know what I mean, Mr. Henry? Like, it's not like people don't know the risk, and they know the people they might infect, right? Mm-hmm. And theoretically, in my opinion, those people who are going are basically giving their consent to be infected. So like everybody, it's willing. I hate to say it, it's an argument you don't normally use for religion, but what is done between consenting adults? What's the government have to do with that? You know what I mean, Mr. Henry?
Oh no, exactly. I mean,
it's consenting adults. I mean, if they were beating each other with leather whips in a basement, no one would care. You know what I mean? In today's world, when they made a movie about, or 3 movies about doing stuff like that, to me, it's what's done between consenting adults, even at a church. I mean, it's like, why is the government involved in that if they're following the rules?
The only way that they would have a reason to be involved with that is at least in my opinion, is when your liberty choices, your free will choices, your choice of free moral agency, when the repercussions or ramifications of that decision start to encroach upon my life. Okay, if I have to deal with some of the outcomes of the decision you have made, unbeknownst to me or without my consideration or anything else, then at that point we need to have some type of government intervention. Now this is where it gets weird.
Yeah, because there's more sick people at church than there are Home Depot.
Right. No,
if you use that logic, Grant, then everything has to be delivery. If you use that as a rule, what would you call that? A test. That's what they do in law, right? They apply a test to a situation, and that's how they figure out a ruling. If you apply that broadly, of if someone else's liberty can encroach on mine, then why isn't everything delivery? And why aren't they like wiping down the bags of food with cloths in front of me? You know what I mean? With a disinfectant wipe.
And see that, and again, because I think that standard has to be something that's reasonably accepted for voluntary action. I keep harping on that because the only way you're going to get people to comply is one of 2 standards: out of some sense of altruism, because they believe in it, because they want to, because it's the right thing to do, because they volunteer. Because
not everybody's altruistic. You know,
say it again.
Not everyone is altruistic.
That's
even people who are moral. Not everybody who is moral is altruistic.
And this is where we get this weird.
I mean, not harming others is not the same as wanting to help others. You know,
right? But it's either through voluntary action or it's through compulsion. Okay, it's either because we do it because it's the right thing to do, and we've all collectively agreed that it's the right thing to do, or because a few people at the higher level have said, "I know it's the right thing to do, and I'm going to force you to do it." Now, the latter of those 2 feels so uncomfortable for so many people. I suppose, because it depends on which side of the aisle you're falling on here, okay? Actually, I think this is a good point to bring up CNN, bro. Losing their minds right now because they're on the weird side of this aisle right now, all right? They don't know what to make of Trump's...
When are they not? When are they not on the weird side?
Right.
Or on the dumb side too. I mean, this is really exposed. Hey, I don't want to get off on a tangent. Go ahead.
No, dude, get off on the tangent.
Okay, I'll just go ahead and say it. Like, this is exposed how stupid they are. I mean, that organization. It's so hard to believe that they are still in business, considering how much money it takes to operate a cable news network. Jim Acosta asked the stupidest questions. Andrew Cuomo can't interview his own brother without looking like a moron. They constantly are playing whatever the opposite of what Trump says in order to continue their version of consistency. And in a time where, like, Trump's just reporting what doctors are saying, it makes them look so dumb. It makes them look so dumb. It makes them look like conspiracy theorists. It makes them look worse than Alex Jones ever looked in his worst reptile. There's reptile people, or the gay frog thing, or it's worse than all those things. And CNN, I'm not mad at them. This is not I'm mad at CNN. They're so irrelevant. But I am annoyed that all those resources, considering like what we're doing here, like we do a thing with video and audio, and we talk politics, and you know, we don't need billions of dollars to do it. And I don't know if anybody needs billions of dollars to do it.
We don't need a single dollar, dude. We're not spending any money on this, bro.
Yeah, except for internet connection and you know, bought computers and microphones and stuff like that. But I mean, compared to the billions of dollars it takes to run CNN, I mean, I think you could probably run a cable news station with you know, tens of millions. You don't need billions like they do. But CNN would not be around if it wasn't for parent companies. And I don't know why people see them kind of like the New York Times. People used to see the New York Times like they're the television station of record or something like that.
Right.
But that has all fallen. And there's only a few people alive who even view CNN that way, who watched them during the Gulf War and the war in the Balkans in the 90s when they were top dog. But anyway, what stupid thing did CNN say about going to church? I'm sure it's so demeaning and stupid.
It's more on that idea of what we're talking about before, of who has sort of particular authority rights to do things and who doesn't. And a quick comment on what you said a second ago, man. One of the reasons why I think during this particular time I'm not trying to blame anyone at all. I'm not trying to hold anything against anyone right now. It's because I think the shock nature that we're currently in is messing so many people are so fragile right now. And I don't mean
messing
that
up the flow, man. Messing up the
that's
flow.
what I'm saying. And I don't mean that in a demeaning sense at all. I mean that in a sense of like fragility from time to time can be a good thing if you recognize it for the ability to grow from it. Okay. If you recognize it for exploiting or not exploiting, but exposing your weaknesses. So you know the faults you have to work on. I think people are feeling vulnerable, and I think they're feeling very fragile right now in their worldviews, in their state of minds, in their ideologies, political or otherwise. And I think some of this is really starting to show through, bro. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I think this is a healthy churning of the spirits type thing, but it's also a thing where stuff's going to get weird for a lot of people here, man. And it's going to get weird for, look at this right now, Sean. Okay. So I'll play the clip here in a minute as to what this came from. This isn't too surprising. It's only surprising when you notice that these four that you're seeing right now, that was from CNN for about a 5-minute period. So let me just show you what these four angry Trump briefing into propaganda session, right? Trump refuses to acknowledge any mistakes. Trump uses task force briefing to try and rewrite history on coronavirus response. Trump
CNN uses television station to rewrite history every day.
I know.
No, that's the new headline. CNN says we make history. We also make the future. Reality sucks. The end. Oh man.
By the way, your Alex Jones comment, John said a second ago, hey man, there's some pretty nasty sewer water out there. I'm sure that's what's making the frogs gay,
or at least depressed. Yeah, right. At least. Yeah. I mean, there was that one study about Prozac in the water over in Washington.
Yeah.
You still hitting comments?
Yeah, just a little bit. Go ahead and read some if you want.
Oh, I love Nick Crawford's got to love Kentucky governor trying to blame Tennessee and tell us what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Norm and Tina, exactly, Shine. The agenda is not consistent across all opportunities to be infected. Going back to that church conversation, I guess implying that they're singling out churches over some of the other stuff. Kelly says protesting's already being organized. And it's not about the virus. It's about control. This is a test, she says.
And anyway. Look, in speaking of a test, okay, this is a test for a lot of people. This is a test in any way you look at it, bro. This is a test in a sense that it's spiritually trying to figure out where people are going to stand at the end of the day. It's an objective test in the sense of what are you actually going to hold to when this stuff is all done. It's a test in the sense of after this is all completed, which things are still going to be around. And one more time, bro, this is why I'm saying I don't necessarily blame people during this period, because I'm struggling myself. And as objective as I like to try and tell people that I like to try and be, I make a hard concerted effort in spite of my best self sometimes to try and hit that ideal, to try and hit that virtue target of basically saying, if I come across new factual information that's better than what I've been presented before, force yourself to change your mind. I've always been that way prior to and hopefully after this situation going on. But I'll tell you right now, buddy, when I see CNN starting to support the 10th Amendment again, I don't really know what's going on anymore, buddy, because yesterday, apparently Trump claimed that he has total authority to open up the economy. And I distinctly remember CNN saying, bro, now they're saying you don't have total authority to open up the economy. But a couple months back, they were saying you should use your total authority to shut down everything.
What do you mean? So that was 2 weeks ago.
Right.
That was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, they were asking him if he was going to make governors who had not done shutdown orders shut things down. 3 weeks ago, they were saying, why aren't you doing a national shutdown? Instead of letting the governors even do the shutdowns. You know what I mean? They were even questioning why he wasn't shutting everything down. So that's super weird that he would have the authority to shut everything down, but not the authority to open it back up.
Let me play this clip here, man, because some of it's just
you
too
have
good
the
to prove
authority. You have the authority to do stuff I like. You do not have the authority to do things I don't like.
No, that's exactly what it is.
That is the rule. Okay, that is the rule. We are CNN. We write the rules. We write history. We write the future. Reality sucks. CNN.
Granted, Fox News has their own problems with this. Conservatives have their own problems with this. I just tend to think, again, I tend to think, though, buddy, if I'm being completely objective, Republicans, conservatives in this particular stance are a little bit, just marginally better than Democrats are at this point. Or at least
it's easy to be consistent if you're on the right now.
Yeah, let's hear.
There's not even an opponent for the It's easy to be consistent.
Let's hear some of this.
The President of the United States, the authority is total. And that's the way it's got to be.
Total. Your authority is total.
It's total. And the governors know that.
So if
the governors know that. Now you have a couple of bands of excuse me. You have a couple.
Could you rescind that order?
You have a couple of bands of Democrat governors, but they will agree to it. They will agree to it. But the authority of the President of the United States having to do with the subject we're talking about is total.
You said when someone is President of the United States, their authority is total. That is not true.
Okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to write up papers.
Hold on a second, dude. Who told you that?
Who told you that? With the secret board in the back, we've been trying to tell you that we run the country for a long time. And I'm sorry you don't. It's really important that we run it now during a time of crisis. Who told you were in charge? Was it the Constitution when you were elected, or what? What is this crazy thing you believe?
Look, let me be clear here, Shine. Okay, obviously, I've always been a supporter of the 10th Amendment. I've always said the two things that I think you can do to solve a lot of the country's problems are repeal the 17th Amendment and put much more power back into the 10th Amendment. Let the state legislatures choose their senators again. That's basically the 17th Amendment took that out. Let the state legislatures choose their senators again and put power back in the 10th Amendment so that state power, state rights have more power than they ever did before, or at least what they were supposed to have. Now, in this particular sense, he had a room full of journalists, just like you said a couple weeks back, that were saying, why aren't you using your executive authority to force these states to shut down? And now they're saying this.
That is not true.
Okay, you know what we're going to do?
You literally, all of y'all in this room just made this argument a couple weeks back. And the point that Shine is making is, if you want to figure out where Trump is coming from, under a legitimate executive order, or rather under a legitimate state of emergency, the executive branch, we've kind of said as a country, like you sort of have carte blanche power.
He can write law, essentially. He can we're under emergency orders, the things he puts in executive orders have the force of law until that emergency order is over. So that means, I don't know. In my opinion, Mr. Henry, unless someone actually physically stopped the executive branch, they could ignore court orders.
Dude, and they have before.
They have, and they can actually do things that are counter to U.S. code.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. As long as they can, I don't even know that they have to justify it. That's what we've done in this country. We decided to do that like 30 years ago? You know what I mean? A long time ago. It's not a new thing. They just never thought that they just don't like who's there. That's the point. But yeah, the inconsistency of saying you have the authority to shut it down, but you don't have the authority to open it up, even though what he did there was basically say, I have the authority. He was just trying to get them. He is so good at controlling conversations.
Right.
Whenever he's dealing with these people, all he has to do is make a positive claim of any kind. Any kind. If he says, the sky is blue and I like blue, blue is the best color. And they would say, no. Blue is the worst color, even though that's like their party color. So but that's anytime he makes a positive statement of any kind, they take the opposite position. And I think he does that because, even there, where they'd say, why did he do that? Why did he do that? Now they're just going to go after him. And it's like, well, maybe there was something he didn't want to talk about. And he knows whenever he does something like, say, the authority of the president is absolute. That's like when he said, I had the biggest inauguration crowd ever. You know, whenever he says something like that, they're going to challenge it. And I think he does that when he doesn't want to talk about certain things. And if they were smart, they would ignore it.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to be a homer. I'm laughing at how terrible and easily manipulated those journalists are. Because if it were me, I would totally ignore those things and say, what is he not talking about? Oh, something he hasn't talked about, but he did talk about yesterday. I'm going to ask about that and ignore this stupid authority crap.
Yeah, and look, Nick said
that was
Facebook
a long thing. I apologize for that.
No, you're dead on right, because Nick was agreeing with you. Kelly was agreeing with you as well. Kelly said, so true, unfortunately. Nick said, exactly correct. Under emergency powers, the executive has basically all power until he relinquishes it or until the legislature reconvenes and takes it back. All right, that's exactly what I'm saying. Whether we like it or not, this is essentially the way that we've constructed the way that this country should operate. Shines, let me know. We got 5 minutes left to go. We got to get out a little bit earlier today here, folks. So let me finish
We
this.
got to talk to our bosses in a minute. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, we're just luck in that, guys.
Yes, it's going to be awesome. Hey, as we're kind of like, I'll let you finish up on this story here, but I just want to do a quick thing real quick. We are talking to our bosses later. It's going to be a good time. Something that would help us a lot and would help us ensure that we continue to do this show Tuesday through Friday would, if we could do a digital hangout with all of you all. That would be so great. It would help us be able to justify, because there were meetings that we could have done right now, but we just did the show instead. And if we can get a little bit of credit through you all, if you guys can help us out just a little bit, then no one's going to tell us that even though we're working from home, we can't do this show at the time we're doing it, because it'll be an important tool for our work. So if you can help us make that work, then we'll make sure we can be on the air for you. Now, if you want to take part in that, we had some trouble with just throwing a private Zoom link in the chat before. We had like 50 people join it. They started drawing lewd pictures and swearing and stuff. So we're gonna have to do, we're gonna have to do private invites. So if you could send Real News what do you call it? A direct message?
Yeah, direct message on Real News, whatever, yeah.
Yeah, a direct message on Real News with your first name, last name, email address, and zip code, so we can put you in our invite system. That's just, it does the zip code so it knows what part of the country you're in, and the email is obviously so we can contact you, and your name is so we know your name. But if you could send us those three things so we could send you an invite, we'd love to do a private hangout with you guys where we're not in performance mode. We can actually just hang out and be people together. We can show each other things, show each other articles. We did one 2 Fridays ago.
Yeah,
and it was super great. I want to start doing one like maybe after the show, like immediately go from the show to y'all joining our Zoom meeting and hanging out with us. But if you're interested in that at all, or even if you're only tacitly interested, if you really like the show, please do that for us, because I want to keep doing this at the time we do it. I'd love to be able to justify being able to do it on Mondays. So if you'd like us to be more consistent and do it on Mondays, we could get our meeting that is during this time on Mondays maybe moved to another time. But we need to be able to and I don't mind making that ask, Mr. Henry. We put in a lot of time and effort into doing this show. We purchase things, like we purchased these microphones. I bought a new computer a couple months ago. New monitor and all this stuff, and I'm not asking for any money, but if you could help us out with our job so we could do this show for you every day. I love doing news shows. Been doing news shows for over a decade, and I'd love to do them with Mr. Henry, my best friend, and if y'all could help us out with some of that to keep it going, that'd be great. First name, last name, email address, and zip code to the Real News direct message. If you could send us that, and we'll put out some invites later this week for maybe a hangout later this week.
Yeah, and I'll tell you another way you could help us out too is later during the week. Nick just said, wait, y'all work?
We do. Come on, I mean, no, man, we're working like over 40 hours. I've been working more now than I was before all this.
I had too.
And it's because I don't have the excuse of saying I'm taking someone out to lunch or dinner anymore and counting that as work. You got to do a lot of, emailing people.
Man, the digital space is the new paradigm, man. This new paradigm shift. It's the new landscape. It's uncharted territory. It's where we're trying to capitalize on right now. And honestly, like, I think I've been working harder during the last couple of months here while we've been in quarantine than I ever was when I was up at the legislature. And I was working my butt off up at the legislature, bro. But I mean, we've been making phone calls, trying to make moves, trying to put stuff together on here, trying to work this whole thing out with it. It's been either way. I'll say one other thing you do to help us later on in the week here is there's and I feel comfortable saying this now because Steve Glover went on record. Steve Glover is a city councilman here in Nashville, talking about a close to 40% property tax increase in Nashville.
Yeah, we got to stop that. That is
talking about a 40% property tax increase in Nashville. We're going to be interviewing Steve Glover about this, but again, I feel comfortable saying that because the Tennessee Star reported on it, so it's public now. But we're also going to have a petition out there that I'll be putting out here shortly on the Real News page. Part of the reason why we bring this up now, we might have to end with this today, Shine, and get some of this other stuff tomorrow. Part of the reason why I put that out there right now is because mayor of Nashville here is a last name Cooper, John Cooper, a guy that's fiscally okay. He knows what he's talking about anyways. I'll put it that way. Okay. I've heard the guy multiple times. He's sharp when it comes to fiscal situations. Not to say that he's necessarily fiscally conservative, but he at least knows what's going on. And he likes to try and lean that way when he can. If he's considering a potential 40% property tax increase in Nashville, you guys know that's just around the corner in Knoxville, right? If we have any Memphis listeners out there, you know it's just around the corner in Memphis as well, okay? They're setting this standard in Nashville because we have to deal with the hurricane stuff that's been going on and we have to deal with the unemployment stuff that's been going on as well. It is going to come around. So if you guys don't want to consider that right now, if you don't think it's the right time to do so, we're going to be putting a petition out there urging people to get the word out to do this stuff. Shine's setting up the outro right now. Nick says he wants to talk to us later on. Let's see. That was a personal text. Probably shouldn't have said that, but it happened anyways. Here we go. As we're going out,
he probably just wants to be a part of the digital hangout, Grant.
That's what he wants to be.
Yeah.
Look for that. Look for that link that I'm going to send out here. The petition to sign. It'll really help us shine out as well. And look for some of the interviews that we're going to have coming up. And the digital hangout. Send us that message. First, last name, email, zip code if you want to hang out with us. All that stuff. Shine. I'll let you sign us out today, buddy, as we're exiting here.
Nah, you do it, bro. Having to push too many buttons.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, y'all. Signing off for this morning. I put my audio on in the background. My name is Mr. Henry. David Shine Thompson in the background there. Signing off. We will see you again tomorrow doing it big. Peace.